Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and it is another Warlock Wednesday. Woohoo! And today we are going to be talking about the Eldritch Invocation. What is it? Eldritch Mind.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we're both on the exact same page as to what to do for that.
It's the Eldritch Mind.
Obviously, if someone does this to me, it's not Moose, it's Eldritch Mind. I know that every time. This is from Doctor's Golden and everything. One of their newfangled invocations. It's very simple. I'm kind of glad it exists. At the same time, I have a couple little pain points with it. It's very simple. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws that you make to maintain your concentration on a spell. So if you're playing a Warlock and you have a concentration effect down, like a Summon Shadow Spawn or a Hex, this is a way that if you're taking damage, you're more likely to keep it back up. That's pretty cool.
Am I correct in thinking this is Warcaster, the feat?
Yep.
All right, so
almost identical, yeah.
I mean, it's advantage on Constitution saving throws for
to maintain concentration on the spell, yeah.
All right, so it's not like a different mechanic that could be stacked with Warcaster.
Unfortunately not.
That is unfortunate. I was going to be excited about that, but now I'm not.
Yeah, the making things work with each other, like if you have two of the same thing. So, for example, we just talked about telekinesis recently, and it being the feat telekinetic, where you get a mage hand, but if you already have mage hand, it gets a little bit better. That's something they started to integrate very late in development. Like, there was some things in Tasha's that did that, but not everything. I would have loved, they could have definitely included words, and this is put in the same book, that said, if you already have advantage on Constitution saving throws, also add a T8 or something. But instead, they didn't, because I don't know why. In any case,
I mean, it would have been great because maintaining concentration is important, but it's not the trade-off, between having to spend a feat and an invocation to get super concentration. It means you're foregoing other things, and that's a fair trade to me.
I think there'll be like 1% or less of people that find like, oh great, this is how we utterly abuse X mechanic. And instead you're going to find people that really love their pet spells, that really love their single concentration effects that they really want to hold on to. Those players really leaning in and loving that ability. I agree with you. I think it should be different, but it's not. Right now, it's the third line of Warcast, or the first line of Warcaster, but it doesn't give you like you can perform somatic components of spells whenever you have weapon or shields in both hands. That's pretty big that this doesn't have that text. It's also pretty big that like you can't, it costs you an invocation, which seems silly to say. There are reasons why it's hard to justify taking this as an invocation that only empowers your spellcasting, but we'll get into it. I'm curious your initial thoughts. What spells would you like to be concentrating on forever as a warlock?
I don't know. I haven't put any thought into that. The only warlocky concentration spell I'm thinking of off the top of my head is Hex.
Hex is the easy number one go-to. Like, I do an extra 6 damage. This is my sneak attack feature. I can take Eldritch Mind with it. I can play Martial. I can play Ranged. I can play Blaster. I can do all of the attack-based spells that use Hex. Hex works great there. If maybe you're doing the Shadow Blade thing. I don't know why you would, but maybe you did. So you can go Shadow Blade, and you can stab things really well with your Shadow Blade, and you can get the extra damage for that. You don't get to attack twice with it because, as mentioned in the comments of the Shadow Blade video, it doesn't work with extra attack from Thirsting Blade because it's not a packed weapon. So you have to be sad that Shadow Blade exists. But still, maybe you wanted to make one attack roll with Shadow Blade, and you want the Shadow Blade to stay up. Eldritch Mind protects it. I really like it with the summoning stuff. I really think Summon Aberration and Summon Shadow Spawn get a lot better whenever you are consistently keeping them for the hour, and you getting hit fringely and having to stay up is really going to be pretty important, and this protects that. I think you probably don't want to take this particularly early. I think this is something you want to be able to take as like your 5th or 6th invocation. That's going to put it as something you're taking a little bit later. That being said, to get it up that upper tier, I think it's quite good. So,
all right, but it begs the question though: do you want to take this at all? Because or if you want this effect, would you not be better off taking it as a feat and getting the other little bonus features as well?
I definitely think that's going to depend on your build. I think there are going to be, if you're the melee warlock, there's a really big reason to care about the somatic components of the spells happening while you're wielding a weapon and shield. Hexed Blades in particular, because they can wield shields, dropping the need for somatic components seems really beneficial. I'm going to double check. Hexblades might just get that anyway. And if that's the case, you need to be a non-Hexblade that gets that text. Which, that's like you're playing a Fiend Lock with a Greatsword or something. Hex Warrior.
I mean, at the floor, even if you don't even care about these other effects, this specific effect is all you care about. Would you rather spend a feat and keep your invocations open?
So feats also, here's I think the big difference. A feat is worth a lot more than an invocation is. You get less of them. Thus, they're going to be more competitive. You're going to care more about what your feat is doing, especially because the feats also compete with your ability score increases, right?
Yes.
Bumping your charisma up to 20 is something warlocks really do care about. Bumping your dexterity up is something warlocks really do care about. So giving that trade-off, getting it, if you still want this effect, you getting it through an invocation means you'd also even have room to like bump up your constitution. If you do want to double up with this, you really could just do +2 to my constitution score. I take the Eldritch Mind feat. I get a +1 bonus from my ability score increase, and I get by advantage from this. Those do work in tandem. So there are reasons, a lot of good reasons why you wouldn't want to take this. Weapon-based builds in particular, feats are very, very tight. So if you're doing a great weapon master thing, you really want great weapon fighting. If you're doing a sharpshooter thing, you really want sharpshooter. If you're more of a caster, you got a little bit more room to wiggle. There isn't necessarily as much of a I have to have X, Y, or Z feat or this build just doesn't function in the upper tiers like some of the martial builds feel. So I think if you're like an Eldritch Blaster or if you're if you're more of a dedicated caster version of Warlock, you can probably accept that Warcaster can be a side grade of this if there are other invocations you want to make you more magical to cast more stuff. You can also take feats that let you cast more stuff. Like Shadow Touch lets you do that, getting invisibility, getting some cantrips, getting a first level spell. That's all pretty good. There are good feats at expanding your magical repertoire as well. You don't necessarily have to, though. So I think there are a handful of characters where you'll consider taking Warcaster over this. I think even outside of the builds that care about the somatic component things, which Hexblades do. Hexblades don't get you can cast without your somatic components. You still need to use somatic components whenever you're hexblading, to my knowledge. Unless it's baked somewhere in there that I haven't seen in a second. You will care about ignoring those somatic components whenever you're casting spells with your weapons in hand. That's a big upside of Warcaster. If you still don't care about that, and you're a caster build, and you have invocations utility that you want elsewhere, and you have a lot of them that you want. So maybe you're doing all of the tome stuff. You're doing the Far Scribe, you're doing Book of Ancient Secrets, you're doing all of Pact of the Tome, and you want Misty Visions and stuff. Sure, I could see you considering taking Warcaster instead of this. That's still happening the way upper tiers. You can probably forgo an invocation in those upper tiers. Like, there's only so many invocations that you're going to want. And once you get like 5 of them, you're pretty happy. You can even like trade off the ones that are worse at lower tiers for new ones. Be pretty happy with that most of the time. There's going to be ways to get effects that you want. I don't know if it's going to necessarily always be worth it. I think more often than not, you're going to rather take it as an invocation. But having it as a feat option definitely doesn't hurt. And there'll be some characters that will do that.
All right. So I guess this does one thing.
Yeah.
What are you using it on?
I'm using it on Summon Shadowspawn. I'm using it on Summon Aberration.
Yeah.
Things that have long duration concentration effects that make Warlock playable, basically. So Warlocks really lean on high duration concentration magic to function. They don't have the luxury of using fireballs and things all that willy-nilly because of how limited their spellcasting is based on pact magic. I have a long duration concentration spell. I only have 1 spell slot, and no, we're not long resting for the next 8 hours. Great. You best believe I want Eldritch Mind to keep that thing up for as long as possible. That's where I see this really getting a lot of use case out of. Warlocks will very commonly fall into the place of, I have my concentration spell that is up. This is the spell that engages with this encounter. That's often one of the summon spells. It's sometimes Hex. Then you've got the rest of your build, which is utility stuff around that concentration thing. It's empowerments to your character in different axes outside of the concentration spell from one of your 2 pack magic slots. This specific invocation, Eldritch Mind, really empowers that concentration effect I can rely on more consistently. And that's pretty beneficial. It's pretty meritable.
Yeah, especially oh man, I can't remember if I think it was Summon Shadowspawn where yeah, you can play that to protect your Warlock, which will further, keep the concentration going. While you're I don't know, I like the fantasy of having my shadow spawns out there killing things and protecting me while I'm Eldritch blasting the stragglers who remain standing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. again, I don't really want this until upper tiers. If I have any other way to empower my character out of combat, or even improvements like light improvements in combat, like if you're not taking this over Agonizing Blast, you're not taking this over Thirsting Blade, I don't think I take this over Misty Visions or a lot of the utility empowerment stuff in the early game. This is probably around the power level of like a feed dish figure where it's some temporary hit points. I think I'd consider that as a side grade to this in the early game. You don't necessarily need it, but it's gonna be nice to have. And the upper tiers, this is often gonna be, I've got an extra invocation. I don't care about any of the new tiers that got unlocked to me because they're all pretty dookie. Great, I'll take this. If you're other comparative, if you already got all the invocations that you like, and you know you got all the invocations that you like, this is a really harmless thing to pick up. And it's good that there's a quantity of invocations that exist that fit that role, because this helps a larger amount of characters still feel like they're growing in power as the game goes on. I'm a big fan of that. I don't think you rush to get this, but it's good to have later.
Oh, what level is Summon Shadow Spawn?
It's a 3rd level spell. You want to
So
cast it
when-
using 5th level slots because it's pack magic.
Right. So yeah, I guess around then is where I'd start looking for this.
I would say I would even wait a little bit later. I'd probably
Yeah.
wait till like 9th level, just because the 5th level invocations are really, they tend to be the really important ones. Those are your Thirsting Blade, your Agonizing Blast, you're now making multiple attacks. This is a way how Warlock gets multiple attacks, so you're going to care about this a lot there. 5th level invocations are really, really tight. Past 5th levels where you get a little bit more freedom. So that's where I think it opens up. But probably, I would think around 7th or 9th level is where this invocation really starts to be something where you go, okay, I've got what I want now. I've locked in my build. I know what I'm doing counter to encounter. This is where I now start empowering the build in other ways. Eldritch Mind goes there.
Cool. All right. Are we done? Yeah. You got a rating
There's
for
not
this?
much to talk about.
Yeah. Rating?
I think this probably, so this has the potential to be really obnoxious for like darkness builds that never go down. I think they could probably make it a 4. I think most any Warlock is empowered by it. Oh, excuse me. DMs are going to have to consider knocking concentration off is now a lot harder. There's going to be some powerful Warlock builds where your DM goes, everyone else didn't plan this ahead, and their build is very clearly like structured and built to do a thing powerfully, and concentration challenging it means killing them. That is where this can start pushing to the territory of. Most characters aren't going to be that case, but some will be, and I think that justifies it being quite a powerful thing that you're going to want to consider as a DM whenever it starts to crop up. It takes busted stuff and makes someone better, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, 4 sounds about right. But I don't know. I feel like I should dock at a point because the effect is available elsewhere. Even if
Fair.
a feed is a tall order. Yeah, I'm gonna give
It's
it
a
3.
really tall order.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna stand by that.
There.
All right. Let us know what you think in the comments, and thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. Well, that was Eldritch Mind, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.